buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
And if you would have told this Las Vegas native that he would become a hockey fan at 50 years old, rooting for our own team, the Vegas Golden Knights, I would have thought you were insane. But I cannot believe how much that team has changed Las Vegas.
Well, what is great, though, about it, Jeff, is it's an experience. Everything in Vegas is an experience. So why not create an atmosphere where going to a hockey game is an experience? It's like Cirque du Soleil. It has the same feel because that's what you're going to be entertained there. And you guys started out a whole lot better than anybody thought you were going to be as an expansion team. And that's where we got caught up in, wow, this is something special. And then you tuned in. Who tunes in before the start of a game to watch the show? That's what's truly amazing about what you did in Vegas. So I think you kind of captured the imagination of American sports fans and certainly hockey fans.
And I'll tell you this much. My very first hockey game I ever saw was when the Knights clinched the Western Pacific Championship. And then the next game I saw was the last game of the Stanley Cup. So I have to thank my brother who had tickets for that, who invited me. But that was my first experience with the first two hockey games. You couldn't ask for a more incredible experience. And after those two games, I am like a fan for life. I really am. Just amazing.
Yeah, we get lucky, and certainly in this business and what I do, that you get to go to a lot of these games. You get to go. The first hockey game I ever went to see in person, Islanders, Rangers, and this is when you had overtime, and it was to go to the Stanley Cup final, I think. And I remember being behind the glass, and Billy Smith was the goalie for the Islanders, and the Islanders were such an unbelievable team. And I think it was a player named Morrow who scored the goal. And my producer said, just so you know, not all hockey games are like this. It's the craziest atmosphere I've ever felt, being at a sporting event of that magnitude where the two New York teams who hated one another, and it was just unbelievable. So that was my first one. After that, I started covering Gretzky in the Stanley Cup finals a few times. Was able to be around, when the Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup final. I think playoff hockey is the best playoffs in any sport, because it's always going to be close and, one goal, usually deciding it. And it's tangible, the atmosphere that you have there. So you're lucky that you have hockey right there with you. And, I'm glad you enjoy it even at the ripe old age of 50 starting it.
Well, they've been great for the community too, through Vegas Strong and all our tragedy, all our successes. So on and off the ice, they have just been really admired here in Las Vegas. So
yeah, it's a great story.
Now, another thing, being a Las Vegas native, the Raiders are coming to Las Vegas. The stadium is finished, but no one will be able to see them play in their inaugural season. I mean, is that crazy or what?
I know. I was thinking that. I thought Mark Davis would say, let's wait and see. Maybe we could get 20% capacity in here, just like most of these other NFL teams are doing. The Chiefs are talking about 22%, so around 17,000. I don't know. I haven't heard Mark Davis's comments as to why he doesn't think they can have fans in there, but I would love to have people have that experience of the inaugural season of being able to be in the building there. But, almost feels like it's state by state or city by city with governors involved in this and mayors involved in this, that it's not just an easy decision for an owner to make.
And do Las Vegas locals need to become Raiders fans? Because I think it's the biggest members-only club in town. Not a majority of people can see a game there or afford a game.
Oh, when it comes to allegiances, though, Jeff, it's strange how we hold on to probably what our dad handed us, and you sort of become a fan of who your dad was rooting for, and then you hand it down. I know my son, you start rooting for teams because you're rooting for players, because they're in fantasy football. So if somebody wants to root for the Vegas Raiders, then great. All for it. Hope they embrace Vegas. But, it's like people in Los Angeles. They were Raiders fans, and then the Raiders go back to Oakland, and then the Rams come in, and the Rams come back. Like, it's hard. You can wake up in the morning, and your team's gone. You go, wait a minute. Now who am I rooting for? So if you want to root, go get them, and hopefully they put a good product out there.
A dear friend of mine, Scott Mincer, he's a big fan of yours. He wanted me to ask you, with the cancellation or postponing of so many fall sports, what's your opinion on how COVID-19 will affect college recruiting and professional drafts in 2021?
Well, I think the draft is going to be, that'll be challenging because the combine is going to take on even greater importance. Are they going to set up the bubble in Indianapolis where all these players are going to go in, and you're not going to probably have pro days, or maybe have pro days. It might be a virtual pro day, but I think the combine is going to take on even more significance. Depending on the states, if they're playing high school football, and then you're probably not going to be able to go see a lot of these players in person. You're going to rely on the way it used to be, and that's tapes. Somebody's going to be getting tapes sent to them, and you're going to try to, it'll be challenging. Then you'll probably have a virtual recruitment where Nick Saban's on the phone and you invite him into your living room, and there's mom and dad and your sister and then you, and he's going to pitch you on that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be challenging. And the players who are not going to be able to play this year, their chances of, you think about this. Joe Burrow was a 5th-round draft pick prior to last year. He went number 1 overall to the Bengals. Why? Because he had last year to play. Kyler Murray, we had no idea if Kyler Murray could play, but he played at Oklahoma and became, first-round pick. Just to be able to have that opportunity, Baker Mayfield. If you didn't have that extra season, who knows where they would be? And I think that's the disappointing part for a lot of these players is they won't get that extra year to prove themselves.
Well, I like to switch gears now because being a film critic for the last 25 years, I want to know, what kind of movie fan are you? I know you've been in Adam Sandler films and they're wonderful, but are you a big movie fan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But all different kinds of movies. No, let me walk that back. I don't do superhero ones. I don't do Marvel. I don't do Star Wars or Star Trek. I don't do any of those kind of things. I don't do Lord of the Rings. I don't do Harry Potter.
Dan, come on. I'm telling you, you're missing out on some of the greatest stories, even with Harry Potter. I know the first couple ones, they're little kids, but the sophistication in those stories. You can't rule out fantasy and sci-fi. You're going to surprise yourself. You have to watch the right kind. Star Trek is incredible. I mean, it's some of the best writing and directing, not only on television, but in feature films too. And I totally understand, like Lord of the Rings, but if you give something a chance, if you watch it and then you just say, look, it's not for me, I totally understand that. But you're missing out on some of the greatest stories ever told on film.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Not convincing you, huh?
No, but see, I love Harry Potter because my kids started reading a book that's a grown-up sized book. I think what she did for children and reading and vocabulary is, I don't know if it's ever been quantified. I think she did an unbelievable job. And my kids read those books, and those were big books. And, it really had an impact on my children with what kind of students they were.
And a buddy of mine who's a fan of yours, David DeClotz, he wanted to know, what's more enjoyable to interview, athletes or actors?
Oh, definitely actors, from the standpoint of, well, it depends on who wants to play, because that's the same with athletes too. But I've asked it's a different name, but it's the same sport and same questions with a lot of these coaches or athletes. With an actor, it's different. I find actors have a hard time explaining why they do something well, whereas an athlete can explain why they do something well. If I ask Bryan Cranston, how did you channel Walter White in Breaking Bad? Now, he'll give me an answer because he's a good interview, but I don't know if he would truly be able to tell me how he got that out of himself. He tapped into something. And then you could be Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, the same guy. And I don't know if there's been, and you'll know this better than I will, Jeff, somebody who did something all the way over here on this part of the spectrum, and somebody did something all the way over here on this, and it's the same actor who did those roles and nailed both of them. But, Walter White and Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, can you get any more distance between two roles?
Do you have a greatest sports movie of all time? What's your favorite?
I would probably, I would say Bull Durham, but as you know, baseball is just the metaphor. And like they're all about relationships. All these sports movies, Rudy, it's about relationships. We use the sport to kind of attract you. Hoosiers, we use basketball, but it's about relationships. And I just think those relationships between Costner and Susan Sarandon, that was unbelievable. Susan Sarandon was spectacular. I thought she was unbelievable in that role. And then you have the secondary actors, and then you have Tim Robbins falling in love with Susan Sarandon in real life during the movie. And as Costner has told me, I had no idea they were falling in love, and he was right there. So you just have that. And to capture minor league baseball and the feel of it, the sound of it, I thought they did a great job. It's a movie that I'll watch no matter where it is if I tune in and stumble upon it.
Well, I'm a classic movie fan, so I always go back in history for my favorites. And Pride of the Yankees with Gary Cooper, I think, is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many of those. And then there are times when you go, it's like when people go, well, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And I go, yes. Like, what is a sports movie to some people?
Absolutely.
And, yeah. And I go, yeah.
The new argument is, does Jaws have a villain? Is the shark the villain? I go, no, Jaws doesn't have a villain. He's being himself.
I haven't heard that, but
that's the new one all over the internet right now is, is the shark the villain? Does Jaws have a villain? And just, of course not. He's a shark, Now, Dan, I've been starstruck once in my 25 years as a film critic. I mean, I'm a fanboy, don't get me wrong, but just starstruck. Have you been starstruck in a particular interview? Because when I met Billy Bob Thornton, I almost lost it because I'm such a huge fan of his, and I've only interviewed him twice, 10 years apart. But I just had such admiration for him. I was nervous. But most of the time, I can sit in front of Steven Spielberg or anyone. I'm just go. But have you ever been starstruck? Someone that you just lost yourself in the interview?
No, a close with Michael Douglas. He came into the studio, and then at one point, I'm going, I'm interviewing Michael Douglas. Like I'm saying this to myself while I'm asking him questions. Billy Bob Thornton came in, and we have a little bit of history because he's a baseball fan, and so we have some common ground there. But he walks in, and you go, that's a star right there. Like there's certain people, Keanu Reeves might be one of my top 5 interviews ever because he came in by himself, no entourage. He walks in, couldn't have been nicer. He was 50, looking 35, had fun with everything we asked about Point Break. He recited the lines. I can't say enough about how nice Keanu Reeves was as a person. And I think it surprised us because you're never quite sure. It's the people who think they're bigger than what they are. Those are the tougher ones than the ones that should be bigger than what they are, and they don't act that way.
And finally today, Dan, what can fans expect your move to Peacock TV? You going to do something unique for Peacock TV, or is it just going to be more of the great same old interviews?
Well, I think, we have 11 cameras here, and there's no other man cave like this. And to be able to let people eavesdrop, be a voyeur, we're giving you something that nobody else can give you. And it's all about content. Like, what are you giving to your audience? And, what are they taking away from it? Are they feel like they're in lockstep with you? Those are the things that we try to do. We let them inside. They can eavesdrop on us. They hear conversations during the radio breaks. So it's just trying to give you a look at a radio show on TV, or maybe it's a TV show about a radio show on TV, and just let the audience in and have fun and we make fun of us before they make fun of us. And, that's where you just say, hey, we're in it together. We're here to have fun, entertain you, stay as long as you like.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for talking to me today. When I posted on my social media speaking to you, it just blew up. You have such a fan base out there, and they're all excited about your heading over to Peacock TV. And when you have a chance, come visit us in Las Vegas when things get better. We'd love to have you.
I would love to. And Jeff, thank you again, and good luck to your Golden Knights.